Good evening. It is Monday, August the 22nd, about 7:15 p.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson bringing you a preliminary forecast for the Indigo Cup to Georgetown, hosted by the CYC this Friday. There's a couple of different start times, so let's take a look. We're going to look at the forecast. I'll tell you what, this is one of the trickier ones I've ever seen, just because we've had such a stagnant pattern over the area and very unsettled weather. I'm wondering when some of these fronts will move out of the area and we'll get some sort of flow of wind that's manageable on a daily level. Usually we get sea breezes, southerly sea breezes that can undercut at the coastline. We haven't had that the last couple of days, so we're going to see what happens. Just understand we're still roughly 4 to 5-ish days out when you think about the timing of it all. So a lot can change between now and then. That's why I say this is preliminary only. Let's do a brief synopsis. So quickly at the website, looks like there's going to be warning for B, C, and D fleet at 1600, which is 4 o'clock p.m., and warning for A fleet at 1900 or 7 o'clock p.m. Let's take a quick look at the visible satellite with composite radar imaging, and you can see just the messy situation that we're in. This has a lot of frontal activity embedded all through the southeast. We call this the undulating front, right? This is the time of the year sometimes where we get a front that just ripples through. We have cooler air to the north, we have warmer air to the south, and this just becomes stationary and stagnant. And this is what's been going on for several days, if not a week already. And we are hoping by Friday that some of this activity will either fizzle out or we'll move on to our south. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit real quick. Here's our surface map showing the frontal activity, the Gulf moisture pulling up across the southeast. It's just relentless. It keeps coming. And as we get into, even on Wednesday, the same pattern, stuck pattern with frontal activity stalled inland, also along the coastline. Then it advances as we get into Wednesday morning, backs up in the day, and as we get into Thursday, not much change. So some of those moisture graphics and the storm graphics fall off as we get into 3 or 4 days out. You can see here by Thursday, the frontal activity pushes in, and then Friday morning, we see high pressure sort of doming out over the southeast a little bit, but we have so much moisture entrenched that it creates more sort of troughing features and inland moisture. So really, with weak high pressure and another cold front dropping down, this is where things are going to clear up, but probably after the race is over as we get into Saturday and Sunday. So this front coming down into Saturday is a little too late, but what happens in between is where we're going to be in this stagnant pattern. And so the winds right now in the forecast and model guidance is not very helpful because they're all over the place, right? So we'll have to kind of wait and see what the model guidance goes with over the next couple of days or so. But just know right now that we're not seeing very much as far as winds. And even the GFS, if I can get this pink to go away here, see if I can remove that. It doesn't look like it's going to be stubborn for a bit. But as we get into Friday in the morning, we have that southerly flow coming up from the Atlantic high pressure. The only problem is that high pressure diminishes out, and then we just get sort of stagnant process. So when we have a frontal activity offshore, this is what it kind of looks like. So GFS is not very helpful in this manner right now. Neither is the Euro. Even when we get into later in the afternoon on Friday and then to Friday night. Now, Friday night overnight, this is where we may have chances of those overnight jetting because we have frontal activity sort of stalled inland. We get maybe a mild nocturnal jet come up to maybe upper singles to near 10 knots, maybe even some low teens offshore. That may be of some assistance for some of the racers. It may be tough getting out of the harbor because I do know as we look towards the harbor for tides, we're going to be on an outgoing tide for Friday. And if we look at high tide at 2:02 p.m., right? High tide at 8:22, that puts us right in the middle for some of the race starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then later on, as the flood tide comes in, looks like the speeds can be about 1.7 knots estimated at this point. And that could vary from place to place in the harbor depending on where you are. We could reach up to 1.9 or 2.1, but our tides are looking like they are more of a neap tide phase. And if we can look at that right here, even as we get into Thursday and Friday, we'll still be in a neap tide where the high tide will be up near 5 feet, low tide will still be up near 1 feet. So not too much of a swing. So the speeds won't get too out of control, but as far as trying to get out of the harbor, but it will make for maybe some slow progress to get out to those winds come up from the south. So it's really tough to make a call on exactly what's going to happen at that time, at the time of the race. I would cautiously say by the time we get to late afternoon, we're probably looking at southerlies coming back in. As long as there's no storms along the coastline, we'll probably see some southerly winds 6 to 10 knots, and then maybe lasting through the night, coming up 8 to 12 as you go offshore and up the coast towards Georgetown. Things tend to you get a little bit more wind off the coast, especially with that nocturnal jetting phase. And as you get out over the ocean, things can get a little bit cleaner. We're looking at about 2 feet. So let's take a quick look at the waves. The near shore, I'm just going to pick the near shore capers buoy for the forecast here. And it looks like the waves peak period right around 6 to 7 seconds. And the wind direction of swell is going to be east southeast, and the wave height will be about 1.5 to 2 feet. That seems about normal for this week. We may have a little bit of a bump as we get into tomorrow, and then it's going to settle back down. So not much change in swell for the week. Directions largely will remain intact unless we get a primary wind swell from the storm system to our south that may change or override that secondary. But either way, we're looking at so far small waves, low winds, and possible storms in the area as far as that goes with this unsettled pattern. But I hate to walk away without something for you on the map, but I think this time in the preliminary forecast, we just have to kind of go into the waters very cautiously with it and say, hey, we're still 4 or 5 days out, need a little bit more time to gather some thoughts, gather some model guidance, and come back with some more definitive answers. And of course, I'll be calling the Weather Service Charleston to confer with them the day before and the night, the day of from the skippers meeting Thursday. I'll be making a phone call then to just check with them about what their severe storm outlook may be and where those storms may pop on Friday night. Um, there will definitely be a lot of follow-up this week on this forecast. It's a very tough one with light winds in the forecast, so I don't want to, give you a wish cast and an optimistic wind forecast for it all. But we'll just take it day to day here, and I'll be in touch with Mark DeGuire, and we'll get through it. But everybody, y'all have a good evening, and hopefully this preliminary was somewhat helpful for you. At least we know that the temperatures will be the same pretty much every day this week with low to mid 70s overnight and mid to upper 80s each day. And so just hit and miss, intermittent storms all the way through, and hopefully things will fizzle out by Friday. That's my kind of thoughts right now. All right, everybody, take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye-bye.